Welcome back to Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host, Sayan, and today we're exploring a way of working and living that can completely transform your relationship with time. So, if you have ever had those weeks where you feel strangely focused and unstoppable, followed by weeks where your brain feels foggy and your energy dips, some might call that procrastination, but you're not alone actually. I think most women assume something is wrong with them, but what if those shifts are simply your body's natural rhythm asking for a different pace? And that's where today's guest comes in. Renae Fieck, a cyclic thinking expert, a feminine leadership coach, and the founder of Your Cycle Advantage, has helped thousands of high achieving women reclaim time, power, and freedom by aligning their work with their biological cycles. So, in this episode, we're talking about how you can add 10 hours back into your week without doing more, most importantly. But we're also diving deeper into why this works, how to start syncing with your cycle in practical everyday ways, and what changes you can expect to feel when you finally stop fighting your biology and start partnering with it. So, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you here with me today.
Thanks for having me. I am so honored to be here.
Perfect. Likewise, Renee. And before we jump onto the practical ways of achieving this, I want to get started at the basics. And even before that, you teach that women can gain up to 10 extra hours each week through this cycle
Mhm.
alignment. But for someone who's new to this idea, can you just explain in simple terms what that actually means? As in, what's the basic principle behind how this creates more time and ease in your life?
Yeah, I think that it comes down to really just like understanding how men and women are so different in terms of our biology. A lot of us have, we're very aware of how men and women are different, but some of us don't really recognize how our hormones are so different on a fundamental level. So, men operate mostly with testosterone, and testosterone is this hormone that recycles and replenishes every 24 hours. So, you might wake up in the morning with a fresh dose of testosterone, feel really amazing, feel really ready to go. As the day goes on, you kind of wax and wane, get to the end of the day, you go to bed, you wake up the next morning with a fresh dose of testosterone. So
Right.
every day, you kind of wake up with the same level of hormones, the same level of readiness, the same level of the way your brain is functioning and thinking and all of that type of thing. But women have estrogen and progesterone that plays out on a monthly rhythm instead of a daily rhythm. So every day throughout an entire month, you have a different cocktail of
And learn
hormones.
us. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
That
so
makes so much sense.
Yes, and so those hormones, they feel very different. Estrogen feels a little bit more similar to testosterone, has a little bit more of that, like, get up and go readiness type of feel, but progesterone does not. Progesterone makes women kinda wanna usually slow down and turn inward, like, not talk to people. And so, what we know now that we've been doing research in the last decade or so on women and their brains and things is that those hormones directly impact how a woman shows up every single day. It's not just a moody time of the month. It's not just, like, oh, she has a bad week. It's impacting the way she thinks, the way she creates, the way she focuses, the way she expresses her emotions, like communication, libido, literally like absolutely everything in our bodies is impacted by those hormones, and they're very different. And most women are trying to function in their work, in their lives, and things like that as if they're running on that testosterone, that 24-hour rhythm, instead of
Right.
recognizing
Yeah.
their hormones are so different.
Yeah, yeah. It does make a lot of sense, and it's kind of fascinating how, biologically, men and women are so different, and
Mhm.
the society, expects women to, behave differently, in the same way as men do, in a workplace. And that the idea that the body is always communicating, that has always stick to me, Renee. Most of us have always been trained to override those signals in the name of productivity. And I think
Mhm.
the moment that we stop overriding and start listening to our bodies, it's like the whole system recalibrates.
Yeah.
And suddenly, what felt like simply procrastination or discipline issues is just actually just misaligned timing. So, uh,
Mhm.
I want to ask you this next that your own story includes navigating burnout,
Mhm.
motherhood, and your husband's health challenges. I want
Mhm.
to ask that how did these experiences shape your approach to cyclical living?
Yeah. Well, they were really the catalyst for it. So, my husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor probably about 9, 10 years ago. And in that season, I had got pregnant with my third baby. I was working at what I thought was my dream job. I really was all excited about it. But really becoming face to face with my husband, like that reality of maybe he won't wake up tomorrow, or, what if he has a seizure tonight and this is his last night, or any of those types of questions really put into perspective. I want to be able to live today the way that I want to live today and not just wait for one day, someday down the road when things get easier or life shifts or just like, how can I live today? And that's what propelled me into creating a business. But
Mm,
when I started my business, I was not doing what I am now, and I totally burnt myself out, right? Like, getting up early in the morning, trying to work on my business, working at the hospital all day, and then coming home, putting the kids to bed, doing all the things there, and then staying up really late trying to build my business, and it was just this, like, endless hamster wheel of trying
mm,
to burn the candle at both ends, waiting for some day when things were gonna be easier, when I was gonna get the freedom I wanted or have the money I wanted, all those things. And that was like, there came a moment where I was like, "I can't keep doing this. Like, I physically cannot keep doing this." And my coach at the time was like, "Business is just a numbers game. So if
yeah.
you're not hitting the numbers you want, you just have to do more." And I was like, "How do you do more? There's nothing left," you know?
Right.
And so it became this like, either business is not gonna happen for me and I can't do this. I need to just be okay with going to work and working at the hospital every day, or something needs to be different. And that's where I dove into different time management strategies, different productivity hacks. I tried literally, I think, almost everything, and
Mm,
came across how men and women are so different. And it was something I started integrating on my own on the back end of my business, but once I started sharing it with my clients, that's when it kinda took a life of its own, and women were like, "I needed to know this, like, more women need to know this." Like, even today, I got on the phone with somebody, and she's like, "I'm angry that I was never taught this before." Like, we're 40, 45, and, like, why are we just now learning this, you know? So
yeah, and this brings me to this very interesting follow-up question next that uh and it's I think it's the perfect point to get into depth about this a method where you say about or we talk about how can you add more to the already saturated life is that before we dig deeper into that, I just want to know
Mhm.
that why do you think it's this linear same everyday approach so draining, and what
Mhm.
makes this cyclical productivity so much more effective? What's your take on that?
Yeah. I don't know that one's better than the other than that they're just different. But when we look at the way the world operates, the world is very much in cycles and rhythms. There's very little part of our natural humanity and like earth rhythms that are the same all the time, right? We have the moon and the sun that cycle, they actually mimic and reflect the same rhythms that men and women do. But we have the tides of the ocean that come in and out. We have migration patterns of animals. We have, spring seasons, like spring, summer, winter, fall seasons, politics and government and stock markets and literally everything in our world around the book.
That's everywhere. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there was this rhythm and this balance. I think where we get off kilter is when humanity tries to come in and keep things producing in the same level, in the same way all the time. I live in the United States, and what we're finding now is that we've produced and tried to keep producing in the soils, so much so that the soils are now so depleted that they're not even providing the same level of nutrition. Like an apple today does not have the same level of nutrition as it did 50 years ago. And it's because we've forced the earth to keep producing and keep producing and keep producing, that there's like no replenishment left. So when we look at it from that perspective of, it's a biological earth ingrained rhythm that we need to have these rhythms instead of just be produced and linear all the time.
Yeah, and I have this interesting thought since we are talking about patterns and rhythms, and it's a bit off topic, Renee, though
That's
I
okay.
I, I should share. So it's either there are patterns everywhere in the universe, in a from a cosmic perspective, or
Yeah.
it's the human brain that's looking for patterns everywhere. But regardless of whichever way it is, I think this will, this answer that you just gave right now will really eliminate the gaps between biological reality and what society expects women to perform like every day, every single day, particularly. And once you see that gap, I think it becomes way too obvious. You notice and how women are asked to work or how they're expected to show up at home, even how they judge their own energy levels. So
Mhm.
next aspect that I want to know about. So, indeed, the rhythms are everywhere, as you observe in your life. But can you share a simple practice that someone can start today to feel a shift in their energy or clarity, since you blend science-backed strategies with somatic wisdom, breathwork, and feminine energetics?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that most of us like changes so much is just having a moment to actually sit with your body. One of the questions I tell my clients is to ask themselves every day, like, what does my body need today? I think that our body is constantly speaking to us. Like, even for me, this is like my area of expertise. It's something I dive into. And even recently, I was looking back and I was like, wow, I was not listening to my body. Like, I was not actually honoring what I say and what I do. Like, I was, pushing through and trudging through. But I think having this moment where we just sit with our bodies and every single day, like, whether that be a meditation practice, whether that be breath work, whether that be going for a walk, but just having this intentionality to slow down to actually honor what our body is speaking to us, whether it's your menstrual cycle, whether it's an ache and a pain in the shoulder, whether it's, a tightness or a tension somewhere, like our bodies are always talking to us. And so getting into the practice of starting to sit with that and listen with that will forever change you going forward, and it's so simple, and it's so and yet so profound. It's one of the things, like, in our worlds, it's so fast-paced, there's always something happening, there's always stuff going, there's always things moving, like, there's so much happening that to to honor that and slow down for a minute will forever change your life.
Yeah, totally. But here's a different perspective that I
Mhm,
also want to talk about. So in order to listen to your body, I also think you have to be somewhat aligned to your body, right, to some degree at least. So how do you achieve that? Especially I'm talking about especially high achievers who are
mhm.
constantly in hustle, work, it could be motherhood, it could be, you know, different kinds of things, right? For you, it was
Yeah.
business as well on top of that. So how do you get yourself to be aligned with your body in the first place, so you
Mm.
can listen to what it's saying?
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part, Renee, to be
Yeah. Totally, especially like I said, yeah, we're all going so fast and we've got other things going. I think having a tool or having a practice that helps you guide you into that is really helpful. So, I know initially I loved doing body scans that would, you listen and it's like it's a guided scan of somebody walking you through like, feeling into the sensation of your forehead and then feeling into the sensation of your jaw and even just intentionally trying to bring your awareness to each place of your body and helping it relax or help tightening it up and then relaxing it or doing those types of things can be really helpful. For me, I love the breath. I love breath work and the breath has been one of the biggest tools for me. I'm very conscious of my breath now, but when I wasn't, like before I really started using it, I had no concept of what was happening with my breath, and then when I started breathwork training, I started noticing how much I was actually holding my breath, and I was doing weird things with my breath, that my breath became this grounding point that I could always return back to, and so it's oftentimes it's always with us, right? Our breath is always there, it's always with us, like
very nuanced. Yeah, totally.
yeah. And so that can be one of those things of, like, really just paying attention to where is my breath and what's happening with my breath, and the breath is it's an easy one that's kind of a little bit more external, we can feel it much easier, we can see it going in and out, we can hold our breath, we can manipulate it a little bit, so it can give us a little bit of that playroom to be able to play with, like, what do I experience in my body when I hold my breath? What do I experience when I actually breathe really deep? And what do I experience when I go in and out? And like, what happens? Is it, catching in my throat? Is it feeling like, is it my belly? Is it my chest? Is it like, where is it at? And it gives a lot that we can play with there. So I would say for like, if you're in that space of wanting to kind of learn and understand, it's just like pause and take a breath, like listen and like notice where your breath is at and play with the breath a little bit. And that can be a really great place to start.
Yeah, totally, totally. And I think, yeah, like you said, breath work is something I think that's the easiest, or at least one of the easiest, things to start with. And with that, I would love to, wrap this up before we talk about the key takeaway from this entire conversation for me, which has been, I think, from everything that you have shared so far, is when women stop forcing themselves into a pace that was never designed for their bodies. We talked about that
Mhm.
in the very first few minutes. I think they don't just lose productivity, they uh, lose their selves in that process. Right? And so it's
Mhm.
very important, I think, for women to especially gain power, clarity, and time they didn't even realize that they were leaking. And
Totally.
yeah, I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest takeaway from this. And so before we wrap off, and I would love to know, for anyone who's listening to this right now, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, I love hanging out on Instagram. That's my favorite place to hang out. So you can find me over there just at Renae Fieck. I also have a bunch of different resources and things like that on my website, same just reneefick.com. So that would be a great place. I've got a couple chapters of my audiobook that I'd love to be able to give to your audience. So you can find me over on either of those platforms and be able to hook you up there.
Amazing. So for anyone who is interested to connect with Renee and explore more about her work, I'll include the details in the show notes for you guys so you can check them out anytime at your own convenience. And so as we wrap up, let this conversation be a soft reminder that time isn't only something you manage, it's something you can create when you move in alignment with yourself. And I think the alignment is really the key word. Um,
Mhm.
this entire conversation that has been. And when women really honor their natural cycles, everything begins to feel smoother. Productivity feels lighter, and creativity opens up, and life shifts from just pushing to flowing. So I really hope that today's insights invite you to slow down just enough to reclaim your energy, and your inner power to build a life that truly nourishes you. You have been listening to Inner Peace, Better Health. I'm your host, Sayan, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.